Hi everybody, this is Gijs again with another review and I hope you are doing well. This time it is a running light that is very usable for hiking too. It is the Spanninga S-Run. So if you want to spread some light into the darkness when you're running or hiking and without using a headlamp, watch this video. So, welcome to the review of the Spanninga S-Run running light that is usable for hiking too. And for those of you who are already following me for some while, you might have noticed that I have a new studio. I've been doing a lot of DIY stuff lately and this is the result. And the wood that you see behind me, it is reclaimed wood. It came out of my house. And the reason for this is that, well, the videos that I shot in my shed, it was just too cold and too noisy. And here inside my house it is nice and sort of warm and at least it is quiet. And in this way I hope to give you more videos than I've been doing for the last couple of months. This makes it a little bit more easy. Will I be testing less? No, of course not, because I am still an outdoor guy and I will do a lot of my reviewing just outside in the field. But this is just a way to make it a little more easy to get more reviews to you guys. Now, if you just tuned into my channel, then I would like you to know that I am a 100% independent reviewer. I'm not being paid by manufacturers to make my reviews. I don't have any affiliate deals and I don't have advertisements on my website. And after reviewing, I will send every product back to the manufacturer. Now, if you value this way of independent review, please subscribe to my channel, hit the alarm bell so you know when I uploaded a new video, and follow me on Instagram and like my Facebook page. And if you do, many thanks. Now, let's start with the review on the Spanninga S-Run. The Spanninga S-Run is a hip belt lamp. And that means that you have to have a belt that is comfortable. Well, it is quite wide. And it is elastic, which is a good thing too. As you can see, the print, this is how you write the name Spanninga, which is really a common Dutch name in the northern part of our country. It's made out of reflective print. It's also on the other side, so even if the lights are not doing it, if they're run out of battery, then you will still be visible, which I think is a pretty good thing. The belt itself, at its smallest, it has a circumference of 67 centimeters. And at its widest, it measures 1 meter and 35 centimeters. And that's also with the elasticity totally stretched, of course. Closing or opening the belt is quite easy because it's got a very big plastic clip buckle. And this one is very usable with gloves and with cold hands. Now let's take a closer look at the headlamp itself. The headlamp, as you can see, it's quite bright, and if I shine into the other camera, you can see that, well, it interferes a little bit with the shooting frequency of my camera, but still it is really a bright lamp. At full beam, which means high power mode, it produces 350 lumens. When I switch it down with the button, it goes to medium power mode and then it produces 175 lumens. And once more, now it is in the low power mode and it produces still 90 lumens. Now these are the numbers that Spanninga gave to me. I will get back to the lumens and to the lux later on in this video. Now, the headlamp itself, what I do like is that there is a tilting mechanism. Because you wear it like this, so when you're running you might lean a little bit forward, which is natural. So it doesn't tilt in this direction, but it tilts in this direction, and you can see it like this. That's how it works, and you hear the sound. So it goes in nice steps. You can tilt it for about 15 degrees. Spanninga claims that the lightning design, the way how the beam is, shines up to a distance of about 20 meters and that the beam itself is 5 meters wide. Well, I will get back to this also later. Now let's switch over to the other side of the lamp, and this is where you have got the battery pack. The battery pack, a little bit of a pity is that Spanninga does not reveal how much energy is actually stored into this, so I cannot do any calculations on this. The battery pack itself, it's IPX4 rated, so it's sort of splash waterproof. On the bottom side there is this USB opening, that's how you charge the whole system. And there is a really nice rubber on top of it, so it closes nicely, so that water will not get into the USB opening. Spanninga claims about 3 hours of battery life in high power mode, about 6 hours in medium power mode and 10 hours in low power mode, and I think, well, that's quite enough. When you switch on the headlamp, you switch on the whole unit, so the rear light is enlightened simultaneously. What I really do like about the rear light, it contains of 5 LEDs in red plastic, that it pulses. And when I'm in my car and I see somebody running with these high flashing things, yes, I do notice them, but it's sort of aggressive and it doesn't irritate me, but I don't really like it. This pulsing, it is as attractive, or you will see it as well as the high pulsing ones, but this is so much more friendly. It's almost like the heartbeat of the runner who is in front of you. So I like the way how this works. Now let's go back to the whole system again. What I did not mention yet is that you can see that the connection between the headlamp and the rear light is done by a very nice spiral cord. And this means, of course, that it is pretty elastic and that you can have this big circumference like I mentioned before. Now, running with a hip belt or waist lamp was new to me. I've been running with headlamps, I've been running with, well, basically lamps on my chest, but this one was new to me. The hip belt itself, when I'm talking about comfort, it is wide, it's nice elastic, but still firm. So it takes some sort of fine tuning before you hit the sweet spot. But once you hit the sweet spot, then you will feel that this is a very comfortable belt to wear. One thing that I should mention, I have a waist of 82 centimeters. That means that I need to adjust the S-Run to a quite small size. And what happens then is that if you take the lamp in front and you put the rear light in the back, that the buckle, which is really a big one, gets on top of your hip. Did this bother me? No, not when I'm running. With a very thin t-shirt on, you can feel it a little bit, but it's more of a problem if you want to use, for example, a running pack. When this one is on your hip waist and you have got a hip belt as well there, then it's not too comfortable. Those two don't work together, so that's something you just need to know. Now, I promised to get back onto the Lumen story and get this one a little bit out of the way because of the interference with the frequency of the frame rate. Lumens. It is a way of measuring and expressing how much light is being emitted by a light source, and in this case it is the S-Run, and Spanninga claims 350 lumens. What we don't know, and what hardly any manufacturer tells you, is what they actually claim, because that might be a mathematical calculation, it might be a measurement just in front of the lamp, or at 10 centimeters, or maybe at 1 meter. So to me, 350 lumens, yes, it says something, it's a number, but it doesn't say that much. And yes, of course, the higher the number, the more light it is being emitted, but still, it doesn't say anything about how practical or how usable the amount of light is. Since I have been testing headlamps and bicycle lights, I've been using a lux meter, and I have one here. And this is way more practical because, well, let me get it into the other camera. A lux meter, it measures the amount of light that hits a surface. And the surface is on a lux meter this nice white milky glass. Behind this there is a sensor. And you can read that, well, I'm not sure because it's quite hard for me to read because I don't have my reading glasses and my screen is a little bit too small, but it's something like 600, I think. 600 lux. Now, when I put it in front of the S-Run now, you will see a 1. Because this is a misreading, because this is too much light for the position that I put the lux meter in. But now, when I move it into, let me show you this, and I'll put it a bit more like so. Now you see it with my studio light. And you will see when I go closer to the light, the amount of light, and now we've got the 1 again, but it increases. Now when I move it further away from the light source, it decreases. Now what does this mean? And I'll get this one out of the way again. This means that the further an object is from the light source, the less light it hits. And this is something that I can measure and that I can do repeatedly. So for every headlamp that I've tested the last couple of years, I've been using my lux meter at a distance at 5 meter, 10 meter and 20 meters. And I measure it in all the different light modi. And this gives me a number that I can use and I can relate to other headlamps that I tested in the past. Well, now I've never tested a hipbelt lamp, so I can't relate it to other ones. But now this is what I measured. I did this at pitch black in a forest lane close by to where my house is, and I measured this of course with a tape measure, 5, 10 and 20 meter distances. And I did this for all the light modi. And I came up with the following. In the high power mode, at 5 meters, I measured 189.7 lux. At 10 meters it was 46.9 and at 20 meters 12.3 lux. Now, skip the medium power one. Interesting is the low power modus, and I measured 49.8 lux at 5 meters and still 2.4 lux at 20 meters. Now 2.4 lux, it doesn't sound like much, but if you know that a full moon with a clear sky still produces 0.25 lux, and you know that when you're hiking with a full moon and a clear sky, hiking with a full moon with a clear sky is good possible. You don't have any problem with visibility. So in the low power mode, in the lowest settings, it still produces 10 times more. So in that way for hiking it's fine. What I came across in, well, basically real running life, in the high power modes, all the modi are fine. There's enough light at 20 meters. When you do the medium power mode, I still think that it is 10 meters, well, it's quite acceptable, the amount of light that you see. In the low power mode, it's only at 5 meters that you have some sort of a high quality light, but 5 meters when you're running is just too close by, so in that way it's not very usable. For hiking it is, for running you really want to be in high power mode or in the medium power mode. Now that was the front light. Now let's head over to the tail light. I find this one very, very intriguing because it pulses. But how much light? Because it doesn't look like that much light. And I didn't measure this one with the lux meter, but just on a different way. I put it on the back of my car and then I took my GPS and I walked away from the car, and when I was at 300 meters this light was still very, very visible, and that's when I stopped, because maybe I could walk for a kilometer and it would probably be still visible. But when a car is coming from behind and there is a distance of 300 meters between, well, basically me and the car will see me, and I think that's way enough. So the tail light is really, really very nice. Now there's one thing in outdoor life, no, basically two things that I do really like about the S-Run. The first one is the fact that the button is very, very usable. You need to press it for 2 seconds to turn it off and 2 seconds to turn it on. This means that you'll never turn it on or off by accident with a quick touch or with a bump. So that's one thing that I really, really like. And I also found that the belt is very comfortable when running. What is a little bit of a pity is that the headlamp and the rear lamp are attached to the belt. You cannot take them apart. Now, why is this a pity? Because if you want to use this with a backpack when walking or hiking, the rear lamp is of course not visible because it is behind your backpack, and it would have made so much more sense if this one was detachable, so you can put it onto your backpack as well, and then you have got a nice system for running and hiking, and that is just not the case. There's one thing I did not talk about yet, and that is battery life. Spanninga claims 3 hours in high power mode. Well, that's the only mode I've been testing, because the other ones I don't have that much time for sitting down and watching when the light disappears. And I don't run for 6 hours on the go, to be honest, and I don't hike 6 hours at night. But in the high power mode I measured 2 hours and 41 minutes. So that's quite close to the 3 hours that Spanninga claims, especially because when I tested it, it was pretty cold outside. After those 2 hours and 41 minutes, it automatically changes into the more friendly medium power mode, and then it kept burning for about 1 hour extra. So in total you got about 4 hours of battery life under normal circumstances. And I think that, well, that's pretty fine for a running light. The amount of light is not the only thing that's of course important. It's also about the beam pattern. And the beam pattern of the S-Run, well, I don't really like it. What I noticed is that the beam pattern is very, well, sort of small and round. And that means that in the center it's really bright, and then it evens out a little bit to the side, but then it stops. And then beside the light area, it's totally pitch black. Now, when you are running, you will move your hips, and what happens with a hip belt like this one is that the beam pattern, or the beam itself, will go from left to right, from left to right the whole time, leaving every time a very black and a very bright spot. I would rather see a beam pattern that's way more wide, so you've got a way more balanced look on the environment in front of you, or on the trail in front of you. And also a little bit more into the height, because with this lamp you can hardly see low-hanging branches, and that's when you're running, for example, doing a trail run, that's something that is important as well. So on the S-Run I think there could be a little bit of improvement on the beam pattern. Next to the beam pattern, what I also noticed is that because of this bouncing, or this way of moving with the hips, I don't know if a hip belt is for running actually the right spot to put a lamp. You know, in the past I've been running with chest lamps and with headlamps. Headlamps, they are, in my opinion, quite stable, except when you look all the way to the left and right way to see where you are going, because then of course in front of you don't have any light. The chest lights I do like a lot, because they are most of the time, they've got a very wide beam, and that's something that really enlightens the trail in front of you. So in this respect, I'm not sure if the hip belt is the right way to go. Now I see a little red light blinking over here, so that means I'm almost 3 hours into this video shoot. So it's time to head over to my verdict. How do I rate the Spanninga S-Run? Well, in the first place, I think it's a very well built lamp. I've been doing many trails and it is still in one piece, even after bumping into trees and that kind of stuff. The IPX4 rating is good enough, since it's on the back, the battery pack, and the opening for the USB with the rubber thingy. That's also on the low part, so water will not get in there on the normal conditions. I do like the button on top. It's very usable with cold hands and also with not too thick gloves. And I like the 2 seconds that you have to press it, because you won't turn it on by accident or off by accident. I like the lighting modes, and when running, I prefer the high power mode. That's fine for me. And if you're into hiking more, then even the lowest settings that will last for 10 hours is good enough for hiking. It gives enough light. What I don't really like is basically the beam pattern, because in the middle it's pretty bright, and then next to it, it is pretty soon black. The transition is not smooth enough. I would rather see a beam pattern that's a little bit more wide, so I can see more of the trail that I'm running, and also a little bit more into the height, so I can see low-hanging branches. That's also very important to me. The best thing about the S-Run is probably the rear light, because it pulses very nicely and it is visible from a really big distance. What you should get used to is that it is a hip belt. So when you're running, you move around a lot and the light will go from left to right. It's something you will have to get used to. I did not particularly like it, and maybe I'm more the guy for a chest lamp or even a headlamp. It's also a little bit of a pity that the rear light cannot be taken off the hip belt, because if you use this one in combination with the backpack, of course the rear lamp will disappear behind your backpack, and if you use the S-Run in combination with a small backpack when you're running, then also the hip belt and the belt of your running pack will interfere with each other. This is something that you will just have to experiment if this will work for you or not. Now, the Spanninga S-Run retails for €50, and that's a fine price in relation to the build quality. But in relation to the beam pattern, it is a little bit on the high side, I think. Combining price, build quality and practicality, I still rate the Spanninga S-Run at 7.2 points out of 10 total. I hope you liked the review and that it is useful to you, and if it is, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below. If you just tuned in at the verdict, then you might not know that I am a 100% independent reviewer. I'm not being paid by manufacturers to make my reviews, I don't have any affiliate deals, and I don't have advertisements on my website. And all the products, the S-Run inclusive, are being sent back to the manufacturer after reviewing. If you value my way of independent reviewing and like what I do, please support me. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and don't forget to hit the alarm bell so you know when I uploaded a new video. And please also follow me on Instagram and like my Facebook page. And if you do, many thanks in advance. Enjoy the outdoors. Ciao, ciao. It's a wrap. And this was only 3 hours, which is, well, maybe a bit long still, but I'm getting somewhere. Yee-haw! See you next time.